Greetings, I'm John O'Toole. Welcome to my show. So today, this is kind of exciting for me. So, poking around on Facebook the other day, and it was a silly post saying, save 75% on a drone. I go, well, that seems pretty. A lot of these ads on Facebook are they're kind of puzzling. But this particular one, so this one in particular was being sold on Amazon, and they were knocking off 75% off the cost. So I got a $95 drone on Amazon for like $23 or $24. So this is my first drone ever. And actually I didn't really, my kids are into remote control cars, so now this isn't the drone that I really want or wish, but the drone that I really wish is, a couple $100, maybe $300. The other thing I like to do is I like to build my own drone and have it do the things I wish it to do, and just have the fun of building it myself. But for right now, I'm going to play around with my first drone. And my daughter's loaning me one of her old smartphones. It's actually a Galaxy, I think 7. So I could use that. The controller doesn't have its own field of view screen to see where it's flying. You need a smartphone. So this is it here. Reflection there for some reason. But, so this is a q-copter, QC1. Runs on 2.4 gigahertz. Supposedly it comes with 2 batteries and the controller. Batteries are supposed to last 30 minutes maximum on flight time. And that just depends on what you do with it, I suppose. But that's something that I wish. If I'm going to create any shows for CTSB, I need to have 30 minutes of video. What I would like to do, excuse me, long day. What I like to do is shoot some nature videos. Go fly around ponds, woodlands like that. I'm not really much for flying it up, 200 feet in the air and shooting pictures over the house. So now this hasn't been taped closed, which makes you think that maybe it's been opened before. So it's not as big. Now it says it's a 6-axis gyro. I'm not exactly sure what it means by that. There's only 4 motors. So what we got here, we got the controller. So they give you a bag. They have some couple of videos on their website. Charging cables. So they give you some props, and they give you guards to go around the blades. and some feet. So they give you some extra parts. They give you one motor, kind of a small motor. But at least it's something, you know? So basically a repair kit, a couple extra blades, in case you have a crash. I'm going to try not to have a crash. So I'm probably going to have to charge up the batteries. So it's fairly light. They had a green one and a red one. But this is some place for me to start. So these have little motors and then they're gear driven to the propellers, which is, you know, where the heftier drones have a motor that direct drive to the, and then we have the battery. I'm not sure if the batteries are fully charged or not. I'm probably going to have to top them off. Battery's not plugged in yet. I'm going to have to spend some time reading the book because you know, they can be kind of dangerous. So they give you 2 batteries to go with it, which is kind of interesting in itself. This is 3.7 volt, 1100 milliamp hour battery. They say you can get 30 minutes of flight time. It's not a very big battery, but it's probably equivalent to what I use in my camera. So I'm not going to deal with the battery right now. And then so I'm going to have to read the manual and figure out what all the buttons do. So as this flips up, and then you can mount the camera, your smartphone, under this tab. And first you got your joysticks, battery cover. They give you a little screwdriver. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to magnetize this screwdriver a little bit. I have a magnetizer. Put a little charge on my screwdriver. try not to drop me. Yeah, so now I can pick up a little bit. So it looks like AAA batteries, 3 of them. Fortunately, I just got in some AAA batteries. There certainly are better transmitters out there that have more feedback on what's going on in the copter battery life. So what I like is a one that has GPS, and I also like it to have some kind of anti-bumping in, like a radar that would, you know, try to resist it from bumping into other objects. You know, but I think I need to first learn to fly, and then figure out from there, you know, what I'm going to do with it. So these are lithium batteries. These are kind of what I buy, is the lithiums. I have rechargeables too, but I bought some really good rechargeable batteries. They're kind of a nuisance to... Like I say, I need to read the directions about it. The more I read about it, the better I will be at learning on how all it will work together. This, I assume, is the camera. Supposed to have a high definition camera. And then there's an antenna. Let's get a close up on it. That's the antenna that transmits back to the controller for just the camera. So there's 2 antennas on a drone if you have it equipped with a camera. One's gonna, and then actually you might have 3, because if one of them is your a GPS, you're gonna have a GPS for one antenna. Another antenna is gonna communicate with your controller, and then the third antenna is going to be your camera, transmitting the images back to either your controller or to a smartphone or some other type of recording device. So these are the feet. It's like they just mount on the bottom. You know, some of them, they don't have feet. It's kind of interesting in itself. You'd think that they'd have a screw to secure the legs, but they don't. I'm going to take this cover, give me some place to sit it on. And now we have these these are the guards. A lot of them don't have guards. I think if you're flying it in a house, you're going to want guards. So this is the motor. It's a little motor. And this is the mount that has the gear on it. So it actually mounts this way. So yeah, that's where the propeller would go. So if you get a broken motor, you can hook that up. And then they give you a USB cable that has the battery connector on it. So you can charge up the battery. LED, but we can look at that in a minute. So what we can do is I'll plug the battery in, start getting it charged up. Cover seems like it's a little funky. I imagine that'll be the first thing you lose if the thing crashes. There we go. It only fits one way. Oh, it has a little LED on the connector that plugs into the USB port. So right now it's red. I imagine it'll turn green when it's charged. Now, just so you know, I'm not a super genius. I did watch the assembly video prior to getting the copter, so I do. But this is a keyway. Little tabs on the bottom, and they mount into the bottom of the tight. Then again, you don't want it falling out, do you? When it's in flight. Well, hopefully that's a healthy snap. Uh-oh. So I want to plug in the on-off switch is actually under the camera, which, if you ask me, is a little weird. So you want to plug in the motor, the camera. I got it the first time. That's scary. And then that's that. The only thing is that the on-off switch is right underneath of the camera. So you'll have to use something like the screwdriver or something. So that, to me, is kind of funky. I don't really like that. Now, it could be a safety to do it that way, but honestly, I don't quite care for that. So these fit in like the feet do. And then there are some screws in the envelope. an old baggie here of screws. Now I remember from the video said to use the long ones. Go one Mississippi, well, don't drop them because you never find them. I used to service copiers and printers. I'd drop a screw on the floor, and if they had rugs, your chances of finding a screw, you'd be on your hands and knees. Particularly if it's a unique screw. You learn when you're, that's what something you do is you always save screws, unless they're damaged. You got a jar or something, you want to save the screws. But you wouldn't find one of these, and you won't find it in a hardware store. Maybe in a hobby store. Nice that they give you a screwdriver. So, this is probably about as far as we can go with this. And then now you probably have figured out by now that there's two reasons for having a copter. Well, there's probably other ones, but primarily you either use them for racing, or use them for photography, or use them for both. And the racing ones are designed for speed. And they're small, kind of like this. And the ones that are used for photography are a little bigger. This is probably kind of in the middle. But the really small ones are this, and this is a size for racing too. It's just to have it fly very fast and maneuverability. And the larger ones are more stable for hovering. Although some of them are getting really, they're using GPS to track their movements. So, you know, they're much more sophisticated. Pretty sure this one doesn't have GPS in it. But for $25, you know, that's about what you're going to get. But yeah, it was $100, but... And then I got it on sale, but... You're really still talking about a fairly inexpensive bird. So, and there it is. See if I can, sometimes I don't look at the camera very much. So there we go. So the next segment, I'm going to read I'm going to read the book and study the remote, and then we'll try to do some flying around the house, and we'll see how the cats handle that. And yeah. And we'll see if it even works. It may not even work. And then I'll have to decide whether I want to disassemble it and build it my own, or so I've read the book. Now just keep in mind that this is my first drone. Now I did discover that there's a slot right here for an SD card, micro SD. I'm going to have to get some micro SD cards. It's switch under here, which is a little hard to get to. But go, and then turn on the controller, and then to pair them, the arm forward, arm back. But once it stops the flashing, that it's in sync. Now it also recommended hitting the reset button. And that takes care of anything that's left in there that's going to confuse it. Now, the advertisement is it's 30 minutes per battery, but in reality it's 15, which makes sense because it's not a very big battery. So, ultimately I like to have a 30 minutes of flight time, at least, so that I can fly around ponds and such. But this is my first one, and yeah, this is what I'm going to learn on. So apparently I pressed this button. So that went well first flight. It only crashed into my air tube. It's funny because it flies towards me. pretty much has like a mind of its own. Takes a little bit of getting used to about like where it's gonna fly, and not having any kind of writing on the joysticks. It's a little hard to figure out where things are going to do.
So I've watched a number of videos of previewing this particular chopper, and they've all had perfect takeoff. Right out of the box. Perfect. And I have to question whether or not there's really any kind of integrity in the drone videos out there that are doing performance, but they always talk about how great these things are. And here I have one out of the box randomly that won't calibrate. So I just find it kind of an interesting thing that this one just keeps flying its own way.
I don't know if you can see this or not, but I've managed to land it over to the kitchen table, and you know, it's not that easy to control. You would think that it's not that easy to control. I'm not actually too sure about how I can get it to you know, it's a different day because I've changed my shirt. Maybe by June or July I can get out of a thermal shirt. I'm hopeful. But so I've been playing around with this drone. Now I remind you that this is my first drone. It was $100 on Amazon, but it cost me, I don't know, $24 or $25 with tax. And free shipping, of course. So I don't really know a whole lot. Now I've read some books on how to build my own drone. And I realized that I needed to take the step of building a drone, having a drone first. Could have bought a drone that's a couple $100, but I'm saving up to buy computer parts, remember? So now the problem I've been having with this drone, and I've flown it all different places around the house, whether it was me or not, it's gone different places around the house. Interesting enough, the cats aren't too freaked out by it, which is really kind of weird because it's got to be their first quad. But it doesn't fly straight. I can lift it up and put it down, but it always wants to lean to the right. And if I can get it to go to the left, it's usually by accident. It's almost like the controls are backwards. So, if you've studied at all about building your own quad, here are some interesting tips. Now I have this on a little stand just to see if it's balanced. Now it's not a point, it's just a little cap. Okay, so I'm going to be out of field of view for you. So some things to know about a quadcopter, quad being 4. They have them that are 6 also, which are larger ones. The motors on opposite sides turn the same direction. So, as you can see, maybe I need like a pointer here. I use my drumstick. So, this blade and this blade are in the same orientation. See how it slopes down here and slopes down here. They both rotate the same rotation, whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise. And you can find that out by starting and stopping it, and then when it slows down enough you can see the direction. And then these two are paired also, and where you have the blades. See how they're the same. So, and that's how the copter stays afloat without falling over. If two are on this side and this side were the same, it wouldn't be able to stay afloat. It wouldn't be able to hover. And the other thing you want to make sure is that it's more or less balanced. Particularly if you build your own, everything's going to be equal all around. You know, all your electronics is going to be in the center so that it's not out of balance. Now the bottom is kind of round, so let's see, even when I tip it, it doesn't really go out of balance. It still stays pretty level. So this is where I'm at with this. The front, someone was saying to make sure that it's in headless mode or something. Essentially this side here is the front where the camera points, and so when I calibrate it, I'm pointing the remote towards it, but basically the controller is backwards. So when I push this thing to fly to the right, it wants to go left. When I push it to the left, it wants to go right. But even still, it's not perfect that way. So basically what it will do is it almost just flies where it wants. And then I have to go retrieve it. So, let's see if I can pick up any of this. got something off of it. Top cover. The battery's still in it. So it's a little disappointing. I'm going to post a video on YouTube, and I might even put the video up. We'll see how much time I have. Now the interesting thing about flying the drone and shooting video of flying the drone is you kind of need another drone to follow the first drone. Unless you're flying it outside, and you could be way back so that you can get it in the field of view all the time. So I did discover that the camera has a slot in the back, and I may have already mentioned it, but there's a slot in the back for a micro SD card, and of course and it has an antenna that'll transmit to your smartphone, and if you want to fly by the smartphone, then you can connect up the two, you can pair them and fly by the video coming into the smartphone. Now if you're using Wi-Fi, you're going to use more battery power. At 3.7 volts at 1100 milliamp hours, it's not a lot of power. But it's something to start with. If you're going to play around with quads, don't go out and buy a $500 quad. Do what I did. Buy a cheap quad, play around with it, and see where you end up. So, for now, ta-ta. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-ba. Well, welcome back. So in the last few days, I've been taking my very first drone that I ever purchased in my life and been playing with it and crashed it a lot. It spends a lot of time crashing. As a matter of fact, there was one instant when it grabbed my hair. Can you believe it? Brings me back in the days when my tie used to get stuck in the copy machine when I was servicing it. Because we had to wear ties to service products that were dangerous. But at that time, you couldn't find a clip-on tie for an adult. Now they're quite popular. So, on the cheaper copters, which I guess they would consider the toy level, which is what this is, and it has a gyro in it. That's the thing on the box when it's called a 6-axis gyro. And that's the ability for it to know what level is in relation to the planet Earth. Now, it knowing the level gives it the ability to fly level and fly straight and fly to the left when you want to and fly to the right when you want to and forward and backward when you wish it to. And if the gyro is not calibrated right or it's dysfunctional, it's not going to fly the way you wish it to fly. So, in the manuals, they'll say to put your copter on a flat surface or even a flat level surface. they didn't say to get out the laser level and engineer a platform that is so close to level that you'll never be able to see a difference. They don't tell you that, but that's what they really want you to do. So that's what I've been playing around with. So I've taken my box, basically. My desk is pretty close to level, but it's not perfect. And I've put a spacer on this end so to get it up there, and then I have my level, and now you're not going to be able to see it from up there, but if you could, so right about here is a good spot. We're going to take the copter. We're going to move the chocolate bunny. Got the battery unplugged. And the switch is on. And I'm going to turn on the remote. Now, many of these comments I've picked up from watching videos. So, then we're going to put the battery in. And the flashing is that it's trying to connect to the transmitter. Now, I'm not terribly impressed by this setup. Put the battery in the other way, then the door will go on. Alright. So there we are, right there. Now we're going to go down, go up, go down. Now that's all I should have to do. To be on the safe side, I'm going to hit the reset button. Puts everything back to factory calibration. Now we should be good to go. And it should fly and it should hover. Now, you probably noticed a little rattling sound. That's the sign of the copter heading towards you. Now, this is a good thing. It's heading towards you because normally it's heading towards me. Ow! Ow! Please don't grab the spinning thing. So needless to say, I'm not happy about this first copter. And if I paid $100 for it, I would be really upset. This actually would be on its way back to Amazon. Now, I have been in contact with the manufacturer a few times, and they said they're either going to send me a new drone or a new camera. And it's a big whoop if they send me a new camera. Like, what's that going to do me? But I'm not happy about how well this is working. Now, I've watched a lot of videos. I've watched a lot of videos on drones, and I've probably watched way too many. The other kind of way that they use to track the level and so forth is using a GPS satellite. Far more accurate. And the level. And those are the more expensive ones. $300, $200 and up. Legitimately $200 and up. From legitimate sites that sell, well, Amazon's a legitimate site, but they peddle a lot of other stuff too, like this one here. This is probably a $20 copter, even though it's priced at $100 on Amazon. Now, if I got a coupon on it, I see the actual same sale on Facebook all the time now. It says it already sees me have taken advantage of the coupon, so it won't let me do it again. So what I might do is take this drone apart and see what's inside it. And I might do that in another video. We'll see. Well, if I do it, I'll do it on video. But it's an interesting, this kind of is where you get what you paid for. And I mean, I'm on this stuff. I'm not in a position to chase after a copter 2 minutes into every flight. And I haven't never come home to where I launched it from. Now, if I wanted to return home, it's going to have GPS on it. And it's going to be a pretty decently accurate one. So, for me to use this as for doing shows, it's going to have to probably spend some money on it to give me a more accurate one, whether I build it or whether I buy it. But it is kind of fun. You can obviously, your kids could probably entertain themselves with one of these for a long time. It's kind of like when they play ball by themselves. They hit the ball and chase after the ball, bring it back to home plate, hit the ball again, chase after the ball. Well, that's the same thing as playing with a droid, with a drone. You're going to fly it, it's going to crash somewhere, hopefully it's not in a tree. They're going to fly it from there and fly it from there. It's probably a good thing to give somebody because, unless you're buying them a smartphone to go with it. So that's the other part is I'm kind of a smartphone illiterate. I had a smartphone when I worked for a certain company, but we had limited access and it wasn't popular then. So my daughter loaned me her smartphone, but it's got all these passwords in it, so I can't. It won't even let me download the apps for this little thing. I'm gonna have to buy my own. But I guess that's the future. I may not want a smartphone to make phone calls. I'm gonna have to get a smartphone to use with my drone. Or my cameras or such that. It's a funky world. Funky. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I really wish this thing could take off and land. But There's a lot of videos out there that talks about, doing things with these, but it doesn't really do it. You hit the reset button. So it really is more of a toy, and not so much something a little bit more sophisticated. But it's a good thing to play around with on your first copter. Don't spend a lot of money on your first copter. Look for something around $20 to $30. Play around with that. See if you get a good feel for it before you go and get something more expensive. So, I hope I've entertained you. I hope you've got a good laugh. I know the fairy's laughing at me a lot because of this little experience. And as for that, the fairy's watching you fly your drone. They probably think, oh, why are people using drones when they should be able to fly themselves? Flying is easy for fairies. Some of us are just tied to gravity. Ta-ta for now. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me.